How many times can one man nearly die before death gives up trying? That's the question you can't help asking when you hear the story of Adrian Carton de Wiart, the soldier who practically laughed in death's face for most of his life. This man was shot in the face, the stomach, the hand, the leg, and the ear. Lost an eye, lost a hand, escaped from prison camps, and still kept going back to war like it was a hobby. At one point, he literally pulled grenade pins with his teeth. And after all that, he didn't complain, didn't hide away, didn't even slow down. He just looked back on everything and said, "Frankly, I enjoyed the war." So who exactly was this unstoppable, unbreakable, unhinged soldier? Was he lucky? Or just too stubborn to die? He was one of the most unbelievable figures in all of military history. And by the end of this video, you'll be wondering how someone this tough actually existed, and how he somehow lived long enough to tell the tale. This is the story of Carton de Wiart, the soldier who refused to die. It's 1880, Brussels, Belgium. Meet Adrian Carton de Wiart. His parents were proper aristocrats. His father was a powerful Belgian lawyer and diplomat. Mom is Irish. Very high society upbringing. But big rumors were circulating that his real father was someone even more high profile, King Leopold II of Belgium. Yes, his father would have been a real royal. Adrian himself was amused by the gossip, as it just adds to the unhinged aesthetic of his life. Adrian's childhood was marked by an early loss. His mom passed away when he was 6. His dad remarried, and they moved to Cairo. His new stepmom decided the best thing for Adrian's education was to ship him off to a British Catholic boarding school near Birmingham, the Oratory. This was father's master plan. Get him a law degree from Oxford, and he'll live the pleasant existence of a typical Ivy League graduate. While at this strict school, he saw the quote from the founder, Cardinal Newman, "Fear not that thy life shall come to an end, but rather fear that it shall never have a beginning." This quote stuck with him and embodied his way of life as we are about to see. Fast forward to 1899. Adrian is 19, pretending to study law at Balliol College, Oxford. He could have just coasted on his family's wealth, played polo, and secured the ultimate soft life. Except, he heard the sound of war. The Second Boer War breaks out in South Africa between the British Empire and Boer republics. And for Adrian, it was a revelation. He wrote, "At that moment, I knew once and for all that war was in my blood. This man was an adrenaline junkie, and war was his caffeine. One major problem, he's 19, too young, and Belgian. His response? He dropped out of Oxford, invents a fake name, Trooper Carton, and says he's 25. He even said if the British didn't want him, he'd go fight for the Boers instead. That's the energy of someone who just wants to see the world burn, or, just get into a proper fight. The British fell for it and shipped him out. While his dad thought he was stressed over his first law exams, Adrian was officially starting his life as a soldier. Injury 1. Shot in the stomach and groin. His baptism by fire was instant. In South Africa, he and his unit are crossing a river when BAM! He gets shot, twice, in the stomach and the groin. When his superior asked if there were many Boers around, Adrian replied, "No, but the few were very good shots." This first little injury was the only thing that got him sent back to England, where his real identity was discovered, and he finally faced his furious dad. Unluckily for every German soldier in the next 40 years, his father finally consented. Adrian quit Oxford for good and was immediately ready for round 2 in South Africa. World War I had barely begun when Adrian Carton de Wiart found himself right where he always wanted to be, in the middle of the action. To him, war wasn't a nightmare to survive, it was a calling. The noise, the chaos, the danger, that was his element. And as insane as it sounds, he loved it. Injury 2, the pirate look. He'd already gotten a taste of battle. In the Somaliland campaign in 1914, while charging a dervish fort at Shimber-Barras, he took bullets straight to the face, one through the eye, another through the ear. Most men would have called that the end of the line, but not Carton. For him, that was just another day. Doctors managed to save his life, but his left eye was completely gone. They gave him a glass replacement, a symbol of their victory over injury. Carton, however, had other ideas. The glass eye was uncomfortable, so he simply popped it out and tossed it out of a taxi window. He preferred the pirate look. From then on, the black eye patch became his trademark and part of his legendary persona. That injury, as brutal as it was, didn't discourage him. If anything, it made him hungrier for battle. Losing an eye wasn't a defeat. It was proof that he could stare death down and come out laughing. When the Great War erupted in 1914 and much of Europe plunged into madness, Carton was thrilled. While most of the world dreaded the slaughter ahead, he was impatient to get back into uniform and have another go. There was one problem, though. The British Army wasn't so sure about sending a half-blind officer to the front lines. They worried it would make the army look weak, so they offered him a deal. He could go, but only if he wore his glass eye to appear more respectable. He agreed, signed the papers, then immediately ripped the thing out and threw it away again. He wasn't going to pretend for anyone. The black patch stayed, and so off he went. One eye, one insane sense of purpose, and zero fear. To him, the trenches of France were not hell, they were home. He walked through explosions like they were background noise, often refusing to duck when shells landed nearby because, as he put it, how are you supposed to see the battle if you're ducking all the time? It was this same stubborn courage, or maybe just absolute disregard for self-preservation, that turned him into a legend. The face injury in Somaliland was his first near-death experience, but it was far from his last. It marked the beginning of a hero's journey unlike any other, a man constantly caught between life and death, but somehow always walking away. That first bullet to the face wasn't the end of his story. It was the moment he became Carton de Wiart, the Unkillable Soldier. Adrian Carton de Wiart's career was less a military record and more a test of endurance. He seemed to attract bullets, shrapnel, and explosions, but every time he was struck down, he rose again. By the time he fought in the First World War, he had already lost an eye, but that was merely the beginning. Injury 3, self-amputation of the left hand. One episode defines his character. Early in the Great War, during the Second Battle of Ypres in April 1915, an explosion tore open his left hand. When doctors hesitated to amputate the mangled limb, he famously tore off 2 of his own dangling fingers himself, and later insisted they remove the entire hand. From then on, he fought with one eye and one hand, driven by the same relentless determination that made him legendary. Injury 4, shot in the skull and recurrent wounds. His worst day came during the Battle of the Somme in 1916, specifically near Delville Wood, where he was shot clean through the back of the skull. He recovered from this fatal injury and went back to the trenches as if nothing had happened. Across subsequent engagements, including Passchendaele and Arras, he was shot in the hip, leg, ankle, and ear, each wound the sort that ended other men's lives. He recovered from all of them. His sense of duty bordered on obsession. Even after years of wounds and surgeries, he refused to slow down. Later, during the Second World War, his defiance of death extended to the air. He survived 2 plane crashes, the first in Poland, the second off the coast of Libya, swimming to shore through debris and enemy waters. Each disaster only added to his myth. To ordinary logic, he should have died a dozen times over, yet each time the world tried to finish him, he endured, unshaken, as if survival itself were his final act of defiance. Captured during the Second World War, Carton de Wiart was sent to a fortress-like prison in Vinciliata, Italy, a medieval castle for senior officers. 60 years old, one-handed, one-eyed, and still entirely undeterred, he began plotting his escape almost immediately. With a few companions, he spent months digging a 60-foot tunnel beneath the castle walls. The work was exhausting, done mostly by hand, but he refused to stop. In March 1943, after 7 months underground, they emerged into the night and slipped into the countryside dressed as peasants. For 8 days, they wandered through Italy before being recaptured, a one-eyed man with an empty sleeve proving difficult to disguise. Though the escape failed, it became another mark of his stubborn courage. At the Somme, amid machine gun fire and artillery, he led from the front, running messages between units himself when communication broke down. His men followed him not because he ordered them to, but because he never flinched where others did. For that bravery, he earned the Victoria Cross. To Carton de Wiart, medals were irrelevant. What mattered was perseverance, in battle, in captivity, and in life. No obstacle, not even the walls of a castle, could make him stop moving forward. Adrian Carton de Wiart's life remains one of the most remarkable in military history. He fought in 5 wars, survived countless wounds and crashes, and did it all with humor and calm resolve. Few men faced death as often. Even fewer treated it with such indifference. He became a symbol of endurance, proof that courage is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to yield. To his soldiers, he was the embodiment of resilience. To historians, a paradox. An aristocrat who found meaning in chaos, and a man who somehow thrived where others fell. His memoir, Happy Odyssey, captures that spirit. It is less an account of battles than a testament to persistence, a reminder that survival comes not from luck, but from will. Though his name is not as familiar as Churchill's or Montgomery's, Carton de Wiart's legend endures. He lived through everything war could inflict and still found joy in the fight. In the end, his story stands as proof that some men are more than survivors. They are indestructible.